New Year. Welcome to the show, The Power of One, the first show for 2021. Today, the discussion will be centered around human trafficking, recruitment, deception, abduction, and coercion are just some of the tactics people use to human traffic other people of all ages. It is disheartening to think children, adults, males, females are being held against their will and being forced to do sexual encounters with many other people constantly daily. Human trafficking is not about sex. Many people have been placed in compromising positions that has changed their lives forever. Today, I will be speaking with Judge Melany Dumas about the great work she has done to help those who have been human trafficked. Welcome to the show, Judge Dumas. Judge Dumas, please tell me about Rap Court, how it began, and the ages of the children that you work with, and how many children were you able to help?
So Rap Court, which is working to restore adolescents' power, was created around 2013 by myself, and I was able to put together what I call a dream team of professionals who they didn't know a lot about human trafficking, but they sort of developed a passion from my passion because I was so passionate about it, and everybody took their time and really learned about, what human trafficking was, what we needed to do to serve the youth. Everyone took trauma training. And so we worked together as a team to learn everything we needed to do to provide all of the necessary services to really help our kids who were between the ages of 10 and 21. During the time that Rap Court was under my leadership, we served probably roughly about 100 kids through the program, because some of them came through the program fully entrenched into, the whole philosophy. Some kids we were serving that weren't necessarily in the program, but they still had a lot of the risk factors. And so they benefited from, some of our team approach or a multi-systemic treatment to help them to, make sure that they didn't get any deeper into the life, as they called it. And so it really was a labor of love and a tremendous experience. And it really put Philadelphia on the map as it relates to human trafficking and being able to make a difference in the lives of those juveniles that were victims at the time.
Okay. I was floored to learn about human trafficking, and I was devastated to know human trafficking was taking place in West Oak Lane. Born, raised, and still residing in Philadelphia in the West Oak Lane section, I would have never thought that human trafficking exists. Are most of the young people recruited by way of social media, Facebook, Instagram, and or Twitter?
Yeah, we found that social media played a huge part in the recruitment process of our most of our victims were girls. And it was amazing how, and I still think about it today, just like this is in our own backyards. Like we have children, and when I would lecture, out in the community, I would say, these could be people or kids or adults, or this could be happening right next door to you, and you have no idea. We had kids in foster care who were living in foster care, going out during the day and during the night, and participating in this lifestyle that was horrendous, and then they would return home to foster care home, sleep, and no one knew anything that was going on. And so recruitment, definitely social media was number one, but also that face-to-face recruiting between the predator, trafficker, picking up kids at the malls, at the playgrounds, anywhere where young people, hang out, they were there, and then they would also use other kids to do the recruiting. So it could be in schools, girls hanging out with each other, and they're talking and they're like, oh yeah, you want to make some extra money, or I have this friend, he'll get your hair done, or he'll give you nice things, and it's just that our young ladies were looking for love in all the wrong places, or they were looking for that bling that they're all attracted to, that they weren't able to get at home because the money wasn't there. And so they were attracted, just like a kid in a candy store, right? Being attracted to the candy, to the sweet stuff, to the treat. And then once the predators got them in their hands, it's almost like an alligator. They just kind of closed down on them, and that was it. And they're stuck with no way out.
That's horrible. Now, because we're living in an age where technology is so popular, do you actually still see street prostitution or prostitution at truck stops, or is everything done through the internet?
Okay, so first of all, if we're talking about kids, we're not talking about prostitution, because there's no
That's so true.
Right, there's no such thing as a child prostitute.
That is so true.
That was one of the main things that we had to help our team understand, is that in order to really embrace our true philosophy that these kids are victims, we have to change our language, right? And so there, the having the girls or the guys on the street who are victims of trafficking, our traffickers have become more sophisticated than that, right? So you still have them here and there, but when we're talking about our kids, because the stakes are higher with kids, so you go to jail a lot longer, if you're messing with kids. So our children are, it's inside stuff. So it's, hotels and boarding houses. Some traffickers have regular houses set up, and it's going on in regular houses. Like I said, it could be in your neighborhood, my neighborhood, and you wouldn't even know, right? So we don't see, the trend has been that, we have not really seen, once trafficking really became, a hot item, if you will, like an issue, a hot button issue, and people were really started paying attention to it more, they just got slicker and slicker. So, because they have to make sure that they're protecting their income, because this is how these people are making, millions and millions of dollars. And so we see less of that, and more of, like I said, hotel rooms, boarding homes and things of that nature, because it's easier to hide. It's easier to hide that way.
You're right. And I thank you for bringing that point up, because there was actually a law passed. I remember going to the Capitol in Harrisburg where they were saying that young people cannot be prostitutes. They're actually forced into that life. So thank you so much, Judge, for bringing that up to me.
Sure.
Now, human traffickers, pimps, do not look like that man on the TV show or the movies in the 60s and the 70s. They can actually look like you and me, and women can actually be human traffickers and pimps, correct?
Absolutely. So the pimp Huggy Bear is no longer what we view, or that's not our image anymore. We've seen regular people that, as you say, look like me, look like you, male, a female, and they are lots of times regular people, especially when you have a situation where you have an older man that is courting a young lady who was far too young for him to court, but they're in this relationship, and other than the fact that there's this massive age difference, they look like regular. He looks regular, and she looks regular, right? So pimps comes in all shapes, sizes, from different economic backgrounds, and I would say that most of the time we miss it, right? Because they could be in your church, it could be in your youth group. There is no one form or one typical pimp, if you will, and and there's not a typical age. when I was in juvenile court, I had it was really crazy. I actually had a young man who was on my probation for a crime he had committed, and then while he was on my probation, he actually picked up a trafficking charge in New Jersey. This kid was maybe, I don't know, maybe 19, and I'm saying to myself, first of all, what a luck of the draw that you're on my probation, you end up in front of me for this, right? But they just like, when people sell drugs, when people sell guns, they found a way to make money, even more money and easier than they would, because you have to hide drugs, you have to hide guns, you don't have to hide people, right? You don't have to hide people, and you never have to re-up. So you can sell this same product over and over and over and over again. And, once people use their business minds for, this something bad as opposed to something good, they figure out, oh, this is a way to really make good money, and I can do it and I can make it. And no one's really, I have a less of an opportunity or less of a chance of getting caught than if I were selling drugs or if I were selling guns.
Right, and that leads me right into my next question. Drug dealers, they have gotten into human trafficking. I guess they discovered that they could sell a bag of weed once, they can sell a vial of cocaine once, they can sell a bag of cocaine once, but they can sell a woman, man, boy, or girl over and over again. Now, tell me, when did you see that shift with drug dealers?
Well, I really haven't done any studies, as it relates to, what crimes people tend to commit, or if they've kind of transitioned into, trafficking. I can only, surmise that, once it really became, I guess, first of all, trafficking and prostitution as relates to people who are of age has been around since the beginning of time. Like, this is not new, right? And I think that before the law changed and began to protect our young victims, against traffickers, and made it, illegal for this type of behavior when it is related to children, that I don't think that it didn't occur, right? I just think that when we increased our knowledge of what trafficking was or is, that it just became more apparent. And so the people that were selling drugs and the people that were maybe selling guns, I don't necessarily believe that that's something that they weren't doing before. Because, look at all of the big sports events where we found out that they actually, that's where they do most of their trafficking occurs there. So these sports games, the conferences for basketball, NBA finals, the Super Bowl, like, these things have been going on forever. Right. So it's not new. I just think that it is just more out in the open, and we're understanding that there is probably a natural progression where from, in their income enterprise, that they can not only sell, they have the whole gamut. They sell drugs, they might sell guns, they might sell alcohol, and they sell bodies at the same time. So I don't necessarily think it's one or the other. Okay. I think that we pay attention more to it because we know more. So we know more, right? And so we know what to look for. And because of that, then we have the opportunity to be able to help more as well.
Now, what is the age range for recruitment that these human traffickers or pimps look for, or is it ageless?
So I think it's more about, I don't necessarily think The age would be because of the innocence and the naivete and that we really see most of the time in our young people. But it's really more about mindset, right? It's more about um, young ladies who don't have that confidence about themselves, who think that nobody is that they're not special, that nobody would ever think they were beautiful, or they're not getting any attention, from home, or there's this void that they're trying to fill. And pimps are very strategic about their selection process, right? Traffickers, they know how to engage, especially young ladies, and give them what they need emotionally in order to trap them, right? And so there are some, and there are actually, documentaries where they show pimps who talk about how they go into, they would go into a mall, or they would, they would see three girls, and they would know which one was the one that they would be able to get, because she would be the one that you could tell, maybe fidgeting with her clothes, always trying to make sure that she looked as good as her girlfriends that she was with, or if he said something to her, she would act shy or look down on the floor. It's those little things that would lead them to believe, oh, this is one I can really get over on this one, because there are some young girls that would look at him and tell him where he could go.
Right.
So those aren't the ones they go after. They go after the ones that they know that they can manipulate, that they can control. And unfortunately, too many of our young people are like that.
Right. And we know it's very hard to escape that human trafficking hold, because it's not about sex, and people misunderstand that piece.
Right.
It's not about sex. It's about that man that knows that this young girl is lacking love at home. So he actually loves on her for a while. So when sometimes it has come to light, these young ladies don't say they're pimp. That's actually my man. That's, you know what I mean? That's my man, because he showed me love, and they don't want to tell on him.
Right.
How hard is it for someone, a young girl, young boy, to break those mental chains? And when that person actually gets out of that lifestyle, how likely is it for them to return?
So that's what we call trauma bonds. And it is when the trauma becomes so normal, like it's normalized, right? And that, if you heard the saying, like, I love the person so much that it hurts, right? And so they develop these bonds with these people who, and if we're, I want to just say for the audience that there are victims of trafficking who are male. But I just, as we're talking about, young, girls who grow attached to these monsters, right? Because they brainwash them and manipulate them to the point where they don't believe that they're worth anything more, right? And they isolate them from the rest of society, of anybody that would show them real love, or anybody that could help them to understand that this is not real love. They totally isolate them from anyone who could do that. And that's where that manipulation and control comes into play, to the point where there is no one else. And so where is she going to go? Or where is the male victim going to go? Who's going to love them after they've been through all of this, this, according in their minds, this disgusting lifestyle? Nobody's going to want me. No one's going to ever love me but him. And so I've got to stay here. And he loves me because he says so, or he loves me because, I'm living here, and this is where I'm eating, and this is where I'm sleeping. And, and even though I'm being beaten, or even though I'm being made to do these things with my body, he still loves me, right? It's this mental hold that is so strong. You know, our mind controls everything. So, you know, couple that with, you know, trauma. Most of these kids have experienced significant trauma before they even ended up in the life. So it's just layers of trauma on top of layer. And, you know, imagine just having, you know, something just totally engulf you to the point where everything you see and do and say is through this lens of trauma. So what looks bright and good for the victims or through their eyes, to a person who has not experienced that type of trauma, we're like, I don't see that.
Right.
Because our lens is different.
Mm.
So it's very difficult, those bonds. And even the kids that we service through Rap Court, you know, it could take almost a year sometimes to even get them to admit or to embrace the fact that they are victims, that they did not choose that life, but that life chose them. Mm-hmm. It was amazing. You know, we listened to their stories and we understood their trauma. You know, we came to understand how and why, you know, they got there and they were still there. And even when they get out of the life, it is difficult for them to stay out, depending on all of the other external factors that that are surrounding them, right? And so if we had young people who had a village that was strong enough to help them in their process towards, you know, survivorship, they had a better chance of making it and staying out. But then for those who didn't, you know, it was touch and go, you know, back and forth. And a lot of them, I wonder even now, like, wow, I wonder what's going on. I wonder if they are still, you know, walking the straight line, or if they fell back, or if they're okay, if they're alive, right? So you really, you never know. But those that were the most successful had more of a village outside, even if it wasn't a biological village. They had supports that could help them continue to walk forward as opposed to slipping back.
Now, with your number of years in learning about human trafficking, why do you think it's so hard for law enforcement to shut down human traffickers?
Because it's just so pervasive. It's everywhere. And I just think we live in a culture that is more accepting of this type of behavior than not. Mm-hmm. And I guess it's like any crime. I mean, we would love to live in a crime-free society, but we don't, right? And for me, I will tell you that what disturbed me the most is that when we try to place supports in some of our young people's lives, some of the adults that were supposed to be a part of the treatment ended up being a part of the problem. Right? So that was staff at some of the, you know, placements, some of parents, you know, it's just, unless everybody is really on the same page, and they're just not, right? I mean, we still have some very sick, disgusting people who will use any opportunity to really take advantage of those who are vulnerable. And we found that in too many of our situations where we sent, even, you know, if I had to send a young person to a group home or something, as we were trying to find the best, you know, place to transition them to, whether it be out of state or, you know, with a family member, you know, and then we had staff who were, you know, would say inappropriate things and do inappropriate things. And it's like, you know, how do you help these little babies, as I used to call them, when you can't even trust the people that are in the system that are supposed to be there to help, to provide, you know, more of a safe place and a safe space, and just the opposite was happening. And so we've got a lot of work to do as a society. I do applaud, though, every serious, genuine effort of those who are in the fight, against it. But it's a daily fight. It is a daily fight.
It is. It is. So, Judge, what is your next journey, and how do you plan to continue to help those who have been trafficked?
So I do teach and I train different stakeholders around the country to help communities as well as courts kind of figure out what their part is that they're going to play, what initiatives they're going to put forth in their own jurisdictions, in their own communities, to help. Because when you talk about it and you talk to people who don't know, really the magnitude, when we're done, they're like, I want to do something. I just need to know I want to do something. And so, I try to go around and help people to understand, where their get in is. Because I say you get in where you fit in, right? And so, everybody can't do the same thing. And so I spend a lot of time doing that. And then for me, as my journey on the court takes me from where I am now to, I'm actually running for Commonwealth Court, which is one of our appellate courts, hoping that, if these issues, somehow arise, that I'll be able to take all that I have learned and be able to kind of impact, from that level as well, because that court actually impacts Pennsylvanians as a whole, as opposed to just, one or two or three at a time. And so, I'm hoping that I can sort of fit all of this in, some way, while I'm there, if I'm successful. But if not, it's, in the community, like any opportunity that I get, to educate, to help people to figure out, what part they want to play in the resolution of this. And that's, to me, it's just my continued fight. It's doing what I can for those who I really have a passion for. I mean, I can't really describe it any other way. These young people, and I, every once in a while, because when I left the family court, quite a few of them had my cell number, and I didn't change it. And they call me every once in a while just to let me know that I'm okay. They send me pictures.
Right.
A lot of the young ladies have babies now that they're now loving on and trying to keep safe. So it's just, for me, it's just my give back, my, giving of myself to a population of young people that don't have a lot of people that truly, genuinely care for them and will do for them without asking for anything back.
Well, that's awesome. I am sending you my positive energy, and we need you in Harrisburg fighting for all of those who were human trafficked. Judge, I thank you so much for coming on to the show. Keep up the good fight in any way that I can help you. Please let me know. Thank you so much for coming on to the show.
Thank you for having me, Melany. I appreciate it.
My heart goes out to all of those victims who were, has been, or is being human trafficked. I extend no judgment, just love. If you know someone in need, or if you are in need that has been human trafficked, please call the National Human Traffic Hotline at 1-888-373-7888. Again, the National Human Trafficking Hotline number is 1-888-373-7888. Human trafficking is a very serious issue that is harming our loved ones. In 2021, please join me in the fight to end human trafficking. Peace and blessings in the new year.